Hi, everybody. Welcome to the living room. We're back for another month. Very exciting. I hope everybody's had a good 30 days. Hello to everyone online. Tonight is all about us kind of sharing our personal journeys. We had talked, well, we've talked several times about it over the last few years about trying to put a break in between some of the speaker series and making sure that everybody has time enough to talk about, you know, to tell their story, to talk about their journey and where they started, where they are, any concerns they might have, things that might be going on, so that we can talk about it, learn from one another, and move forward. So that's what tonight's all about. I think I emailed all of you letting you know that there's a little surprise after we go around the room and do our stories, that our books are finally here, our handbooks. So we're very, very, very excited about it. We've spent, ooh, I'm getting stuck on this new plant. We spent a better part of yesterday and yesterday evening putting a lot of them together. We're about halfway through. And Neil, who you all know, one of his businesses, one of the many hats that Neil wears happens to be a fulfillment company. So he's offered to store all of them and get them shipped out for us. So a huge thank you goes out yet again to a Schiffman. So tonight, who wants to start? Christy, do you want me to go to the stalls first? I can't remember which way. I always try to switch it off so you know where you sit based on how you're going to start. Do you guys want to start?
Sure.
You have to put down your plate, Penelope.
I'm Penelope. This is my dad, Philip, and we're here for my mom, who I think most of you may have already met, but she was diagnosed in February of 2012 with stage 4, and she is on about a week and a half, I think now, of radiation. So she's decided to do that. They do chemo once a week with Taxotere, and then the radiation every day, Monday through Friday. So she's been feeling good with that, and hasn't had any side effects yet. And so that'll go through mid-May, and then I think it's about 6 weeks before we do any scans. So that's
She's
all.
anxiously awaiting.
Yeah.
What's the baby do?
Baby's doing 6 weeks.
Okay.
And her sister's baby's doing 5.5 weeks.
Yep.
Are you guys racing?
Yeah, she says she better be first.
Yeah.
I hear a challenge.
They have a mic.
So Amy, I have to tell you all, Amy over here in this beautiful purple shirt
I think it's blue.
it's purple.
It's royal blue.
She's the daughter of one of my best friends in the whole world, Doreen. For any of you that came to the gala or have seen our video, one of the videos we have on our website, Amy is Doreen's daughter, and she's down visiting, so she's a very big part of our family, and she's here tonight, and I'm so happy to have her here. She's not going to say anything, apparently.
She doesn't have to. Sally.
Miss Sally.
Hi, I'm Sally. I was diagnosed in February of 2009. I had put myself into an early detection study and was very fortunate that 5 years after I entered that, they found several nodules, watched it over the years, and one of them changed, and it was cancerous. And because I was in this study, it was found very, very early. So I'm a big proponent of early detection and having CAT scans if you're at high risk. And I've been very fortunate. I've been 4 years now, and I have no evidence of disease. So hopefully it will stay that way.
Thank you, Sally. You want to talk, Hope? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Hope, and I'm a bit of an interloper here. I don't have cancer. My husband had adenocarcinoma, and it started in his esophagus and did actually spread to his lungs. He passed away, unfortunately, from it, but and we had quite a complicated journey during that time, which involved treatment with Dr. Dormady here locally, going to MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. We ended up coming back here. We did a lot of different things, and since he passed away, I've started my own business where I provide support services to cancer patients. So I'm like a family member for hire. So I come to these meetings to learn as much as I can. This is such a wonderful resource, and I love coming to these meetings and hearing people's stories, and also getting a lot of important technical information that just isn't out there as easily accessible if there wasn't an organization like this providing it. So I'm really grateful to this organization.
Thank you.
And I don't want Hope to sell herself short. Some of the things that she does in having been a caregiver during the process of this journey, some of the things that she found and that she picked up on, that she is now taking what she learned and moving forward and helping cancer patients, family members, caregivers, work through the process, whether it's, you know, insurance companies, whether it's if you're hospitalized and you can't get your doctor or your nurse or anybody to come in the room and tell you what's going on. I mean, all of that, she's been through all of it. So she's an amazing resource for people who, especially people who are new to the journey and don't really quite know how to navigate not just the diagnosis, but the actual system. She's amazing, so.
Not to be too much of a plug here, but I do have a blog. It's at hopeassistance.com, and I have lots of articles of things that I wish someone had told me that I had to learn on my own. And I encourage you to just go look in that, because I've written lots of articles about things that might be helpful that don't necessarily have the time to get covered here, because the information here is very technical, and this is more the everything else stuff.
Hi, I'm Pat Richards. I have a stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer, squamous. I had beginning of last year, I had a bad cough for quite a few months, and did an X-ray in May and thought I had, or said I had a virus or something, so they gave me an antibiotic. And then following month, they did another X-ray and said I was getting better at it, and the cough wasn't any better. And at the end of the month, they did a X-ray with contrast. And I guess it said there's a mass down here, but I wasn't told about it, that I recall. In July, they did a biopsy on the 19th and said I had lung cancer. And the next day, unfortunately, I got obstructed with my lower valve, so they had to pump my stomach for 4 or 5 days. I was in the hospital. And when I came out, then on the following Monday, I had my PET scan and showed they had cancer in about 10 places. So my chemo doctor put me on Taxol, carboplatin, and I had no side effects except loss of hair. And it worked for the first 4 cycles. The last 2 cycles started growing again, because we're going to go up to 8 cycles if it kept working. It didn't. And at that time, I wasn't really happy with my doctor, because I'd been reading on the internet and whatnot, and I had several tumors on my back and bone. And I know I was supposed to have the shot for to strengthen my bones. And since I obstruct, I know I need to walk. If I can't, I'll have to have a hose down my throat and die that way, not eating, which is not how I want to go. So anyhow, I went for a second opinion at UCSF, and I liked the doctor. And I was early on, a few months previous. But when I went back there the second time, he said he wanted to take a wait-and-see approach. And to me, that sounds like he didn't want to do anything, and I got cancer in too many places not to be doing something. And I wasn't sure about Dr. Dormady, because I'd watched his video on the internet at Bonnie's site. And I found out he was in my network, so I made an appointment to see him, and I switched that same day I had the appointment. And he said he had a combination he had success with. So we didn't get one of the 3 drugs. We did cisplatin, and the other one's norelbine or something. They both had kind of harsh side effects. And I had a port put in that took care of the pain and the muscle pain or whatever. And then we did that, worked fine the first 2 cycles. Last 2 cycles, when we did the scan, my 5th PET scan, I don't know. There's a website that says, you know, sometimes when you read stuff, you might later on find out that you wish you hadn't. Anyhow, my cancer's growing 11 places now. We switched to Gemzar, and I did 2 weeks. We're going to do 3 weeks on and 1 week off. So that's where I'm at. I've done 2 weeks of that, and the side effects on this are not supposed to be much. And next month I won't be at this meeting. I'll give you a shout out from Hawaii if I remember.
There you go. That's
I think my wife's favorite place.
Now
We've been
we're
there in
talking.
4 years, and we've been there 12 times.
Awesome.
But you know, it's so important to get information in the right doctors. You know, I'm grateful for where I'm at least with my doctor. He's going to do everything I can. You know, the one thing, it's always hard for me to relate to other stage 4s, you know, because some say, well, you just got to be positive you can beat it. Well, I would if I had quite a few less tumors. I mean, it's kind of hard when I can't get 2 stops, you know. And I'm hoping, you know, we're doing radiation on my CT2 and L5 because I want my spine protected as much as my cancer because, you know, the pumping in the stomach. But I'm hoping we can do radiation on my other tumors. As much as they can give me, I can tolerate. They're afraid it'll grow in other places, but at least I want that shot that maybe I can get a few more years, because right now, as we stand, you know, we're looking at maybe trying to get me a year if possible. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Neil?
Yes, I am Neil. Hello to everyone. First, I have to say, you know, thank you to all of the people who are here that I've heard talk many times over the last couple of years since I came to the foundation. Patrick, especially to you, I remember the first time that you came and you had trouble with directions and getting here, but you did come. And every time that you talk, I have found it to be very inspirational to me. I do have to tell you that I've thought about you a number of times when I'm out bicycling, when I'm out thinking about other things, taking a hike or something like that. And we've communicated a little by email and at other times. And when I hear you talk tonight, and all of the other people who are here and some others, you know, who aren't here this evening, is very motivating to me personally. I also have to give a shout out, I want to Emily, whose blog I just started reading a few days ago, because my wife was working on a story. And Emily finished radiation a couple of days ago, and soon we'll be back in California. And in her honor, I mentioned it to Danielle earlier today, and I was going to tell Bonnie, that I have created a new verb, and that is to emben. And to emben is to persevere, to try harder, to turbocharge and go above and beyond. Because if you haven't had a chance to look at what she has gone through in a very short period of time, and she's 29 years old, it is extraordinarily inspirational, I think, to anybody who would read it. And it doesn't have to be just people who are cancer-stricken or stricken in any other way. Since, I believe, last June or so after she was diagnosed, and because she is a child of the social media age, she has come out, not quite with a daily blog, but close to it, both herself and members of her family, and it is something to read. It is a way, and perhaps the way, for a lot of us to look at and follow in her footsteps, to take what she has gone through, and she's gone through some horrendously difficult things, as most of us have, but perhaps even more so because of decisions that she's made and some extremes that she's gone to, and having to go across the United States for treatment, and being in New Jersey and having 40 or 50 radiation treatments day after day, with the only respite being the weekend, and finally feeling well enough to be able to go outside and enjoy a little bit of sunshine in the New York area on a day that wasn't too wet or windy or cold or snowy or whatever. But she has finally finished treatment, and so that's nice to see. And I hope that I'll be able to meet her someday and do something with her and talk with her and be even more inspired. And I know Bonnie has had a lot to do with her and has a special relationship with her, along with the type that you've had, you know, with Amy's mother had with her. So I do want to say hello. Maybe Emily's watching, or she'll read the transcript or see something like that.
She's watching.
So hi, Emily.
Yeah.
It was my wife who talked to your husband about your story that will be in the next newsletter. 2 years ago, I had the misfortune to start having a little cough that didn't seem to go away after the usual couple of weeks of maybe like having exercise asthma or something like that. Figured it was time to have it checked out, which I did. In a very short period of time, found out that I had, at the time, stage 4 lung cancer, and I've decided that it's either stage 4.5 or 5 because I always want to be one better than everybody else. So when people ask me now, I say stage 4.5 or 5, but I'm trying to get to a lower number if I possibly can somehow, like NED, like Sally has, would be a very good 0 number to have. Since that time, I've gone to Stanford for treatment, have had wonderful experiences there, both with all the staff, with the doctors that I see there. So a shout out to them for being sensational as far as I'm concerned. Their compassion and consideration has been just excellent. It is great to live in an area where we're fairly close and we can drive there in a very short period of time, unlike some other people who have to go long distances in order to get treatment and may have to go week after week or month after month in very difficult circumstances to get there. But I started on Tarceva, had that for 13 months, and as many of you have heard me say before, it was like giving a drug, giving speed drug to someone who already was ADHD, and it was phenomenal. Would that I could go back on that now. Maybe in the future I'll have it again.
If you're lucky.
Yes, and I also still have 29 pills left. And I always look at it and go, ooh, I wonder if I could add that to my medication now, but I'm not doing it. So doctors, don't worry about that part there. But I've also thought that there are many of us who perhaps have some drug left over. And if it happens to be Tarceva, I would gladly come to your house and take it, just in case I can use it in the future. But as many of us find out, or know even ahead of time when we start taking that particular drug, and it did have a great positive effect for me, that the clock eventually runs out on it. And for some people, they've gone for 5, 6, or 7 years. Other people make the median, which is 11, 12, or 13 months or so, and that's about where I went. So I made a changeover in my treatment, and my doctor and I decided that we would stop the Tarceva, even though there's some information now about continuing on, even if you go to IV chemo, which is what I went to for about 5 months. And as I've mentioned before, I can't stand it. And David, you and many others, Patrick, you and many others who have had numerous treatments of that, I'm just in awe of you that you're able to function even. What it does to the body was terrible. Yes, I continued to exercise as much as I could, but it's just really, really difficult taking it. And I know how difficult it is to have to continue to take that over and over and over again when it's beating up your body. So after about 5 months of that and being relatively stable, and I had already looked at some clinical trials, and with my doctor, who was very interested in having me participate in one of her clinical trials, which is okay, I decided to participate in the Clovis clinical trial, which is the hoped-for second generation of the TKI Tarceva type drug. And I started that January 7th. I have been on it. It's a regimen which is very easy. It's 24 small capsules a day right now because the formulation is so small, and because they started so small at such a low dosage at the beginning, that as they've escalated, they haven't reformulated it yet to make it in, let's say, larger doses per capsule. But that's really the easiest thing possible. So it's 24 of those a day with scans every 6 weeks. Shrinkage after the first 6 weeks, which is similar to what happens when you take Tarceva also. You tend to get an early pop on it. I'm stable since that time on the last CT. Is it quite as good as Tarceva? Not in my opinion yet. The maximum dosage has still yet to be determined. And the trial's been going on for a little bit more than a year. Hopefully soon it will be. I have made contact with the company, and on May 1st I'll be visiting them in San Francisco, which is one of their offices.
They were in our meeting last month.
That's right. He was here. Henry was here last month. And they were shocked, to say the least, that anybody would contact them. And they did get permission from Stanford because they did not know me by name other than I sent it in. All they know me by a number and a cohort and everything else. But I think we as patients want to make sure that the companies that make our medications, our doctors, hear from us and hear our side of the story. And what we're thinking, we're feeling, and ideas that we have, both to help them in making better treatments for us, but they need the feedback from us to reinforce some of the things that they're doing, because all we are is a number in a trial and that there. And I want to try to put a face on it. So with Stanford Ethical Board Assent, I will be visiting them as I have previously with Genentech when I was on the Tarceva. And I would hope that some of you will be interested in visiting, if you're in a trial or taking medication, to talk with the people doing that, because it may give us even better insight going forward of providing better treatment for those who come after us, just as the people before us, and Bonnie's one of them, have helped me and Nancy and Patrick and everybody else. So we have, I believe, a responsibility to help someone 5 years from now or 10 years from now. If the disease is still there, maybe it won't be, and it'll be eradicated because something that someone says causes an idea to happen in that part there. So I do again have to say thank you to the foundation for being here, for all the work that you do. It is so satisfying to be 2 years past the point of diagnosis and feeling like a real human being rather than how I felt for 3 or 4 months after that time. And so much of that has to do with what the foundation has done and the fact that it has put me in touch with a number of the people who are here or who come here or that I've heard from and read about, so that it helps me go day to day. May I also suggest to anybody here and others watching that a great website to look at is gracecancer.org, which is a scientific...
Jack West is coming this summer.
Yeah, he's sensational. It is a very scientific-oriented website, which most recently has put up 20 short 2 to 5 minute videos giving information that is really critical to the type of care we either are getting or hope to have in the future. And also a suggestion to others who are interested is to look at some of the medical journals, like the Journal of Thoracic Oncology, which has some of the most recent studies that affect us and tell us where the treatment is going for the future and what the possibilities are to help us with our care. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nancy, because she has more important things to say.
Hi, I'm Nancy, and this is my second time here. I came last month when Dr. Oxnard was speaking, and I've joined the study that Dr. Oxnard has at Dana-Farber, as have my mom and my brother. I think I told my story last time, and many people were here, but just in summary, my mom had breast cancer, 2 times. The last time was 13 years ago, and it was stage 4, and she had these spots on her lungs, so they presumed they were small, and they presumed it was metastasized breast cancer. They couldn't biopsy it, and it seemed like the right, that seemed like what it was, and they stayed at bay for all these years until last year. This time, one of them grew enough to get a biopsy, and she's in Alabama, and she had the biopsy, and she wanted a second opinion, and she went to Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee, which is where Dr. Carbone is, and he, wanted to test it and said, there was this genetic T790 mutation, and that her offspring should be tested for it because it was in her DNA, her inheritable DNA. So I had a test done at Stanford in the summer, thinking I should just get this done, and got some results back that I was positive for that inherited gene T790 mutation in the fall, and I went to a geneticist at Stanford, and they recommended to get my breast exams twice a year instead of once a year, and also to get a baseline CT. And so when I had the baseline CT, there were spots on my lungs, which was shocking, and one of them was about the size of a fingernail, and the doctors at Stanford wanted to take that one out. So Bonnie got me to a second opinion with Dr. Jablins and UCSF, and Dr. Cabone also looked at the scans, and I had the surgery at Stanford with Dr. Burt and early January, a wedge resection, and it was, like stage 0 precancerous. But I have these other small spots, so I have to watch those. And in July, which I'm waiting for, that'll be the first scan. It'll be my second scan, so it'll be the first one to see growth. So they're supposed to grow small or slow. So that'll be a big step for me to see if those other ones are growing. But right now they're really tiny, and hopefully they stay that way.
And to Nancy's point, I got a call one day from David Carbone in Vanderbilt. He's at the University of Ohio now. He's gone over there to the James Center, which is really, really great. The James is going to be one of the 3rd largest cancer centers in the United States. So David said, I have this, this young girl whose mom had the T790, and she has a T790. We've found a little nodule. Can you get her up to see David Jablins just to see what the difference in opinions are between Stanford and UCSF? And so I met Nancy, and we agonized over next steps and what should we do and all of those things. And she decided that she was going to go do the wedge resection, and that was a good thing to do rather than wait 3 months, not being able to function. So the reason David Carbone called me was because we had already initiated with Jeff Oxnard at Dana-Farber to do this clinical trial. Bonnie J. Addario Lung Cancer Foundation is funding it, and Alchemy, our second foundation, is actually facilitating it. So anybody with this T790 mutation, we will test their relatives, just the way Nancy would test it, to see if they have an inherited lung cancer. And this makes this test, all the controversy out there about CT scanning and is it good, is it not good, does it really, catch lung cancer at early stage, or, does it create invasive procedures that are really not worth taking on? This will add one more big entity to who should be screened for lung cancer. And that list is going to continue to get longer and longer and longer and longer. It has taken us 45 years since 1971 to learn about lung cancer, to learn that it wasn't just 5 diseases. It's not just adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma and small cell carcinoma and mesothelioma. Every lung cancer out there is very unique to your body. And the more we learn about the uniqueness to everyone's lung cancer, the longer the list for screening gets, the more information we have for this disease to become chronically managed. So this is why Nancy's story is so important, because as we find these new markers, and this is important for you, Patrick, we're finding that the knowledge is growing and growing and growing, and there's so much more hope and so many new cocktails, if you will, that weren't even happening 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, certainly weren't happening when I was diagnosed with lung cancer. So this is all very hopeful, and I'm very proud and want to announce right here today that the American Cancer Research Association, which we're a member of, Jeff had an abstract at that meeting, and you have to go through a lot of rigid protocols to get there. And so our name is on there for funding this research and actually doing the clinical trial with our consortium of partners. And it will also be at ASCO this June. So this is really, really a big step for us to be out there in the big world and actually conducting clinical trials. And then later I'm going to talk a little bit about what Neil talked about with Clovis, because that also is very cool.
Is that T790?
T790M.
Is that a genetic?
The whole purpose of the trial is to prove or disprove that it really is a genetic disease.
So just as a,
It's unknown right now.
So just, Mary, as a little kind of quick layman's sort of understanding of T790, right now the study, T790 they know it can happen with people who are EGFR positive, right? That those patients can develop T790. What they're looking to see is before somebody's even been diagnosed with cancer and or EGFR mutation, does T790 exist in their DNA? So the study right now is being done on EGFR positive patients on their, positive also for T790, on their family members. So that's where this initial study is starting.
It's the beginning.
Right, but I didn't have any symptoms or anything.
Right. Most lung cancer patients don't until they're in later stages,
so, I mean,
right?
I'm so thankful to have Dr. Carbone and now Dr. Oxnard looking at this. And my brother was just here, and you know, he wanted to do it with me, so he took the swab test and sent it off. So we don't know if he's positive yet or not. So we're waiting on that because it's 50-50.
But Nancy's the classic, like, were we to have your tissue left and have some sort of a molecular, you know, profile on hers, it would be helpful.
I lost
for my family members.
Cancer.
Yeah.
My mom was actually diagnosed after I was diagnosed. So, you know, that's down the road because we can do this now with a cheek swab, and I might be able to get through a few corners here to get that done.
Yeah.
But
needless to say, regardless of my T790 status or non-status,
she's getting screening.
I have had my CT scan.
Because if you have a family history of lung cancer, you should be getting screening. Your siblings should be getting screening, and your kids, and so on and so forth. And that makes you eligible for CT screening. And we highly recommend that.
But not if you smoke. I mean, the immediate response is, well, you might have smoked in the past.
No.
Well, you know what?
Regardless of smoking status.
It's regardless of smoking status. You know, and this is one of the things our foundation is working really, really hard on, is changing the way this disease is thought of. And that's one of the things we want to talk about when we get through, you know, each patient going through their thing, because tonight we want to talk about what's on your mind, what are the things that are keeping you up, what are the things we need to do to change how lung cancer is perceived. Because the way lung cancer is perceived, that it's just a smoking disease, and that, say, you know, when, God bless Dana Reeve, when she died, she was a never smoker. But the media wanted to make it sound like, well, she worked in a cabaret and she worked around smokers.
Yeah.
So that's why she had it. You know, that's not the case. Anyone can get lung cancer. Anyone can get lung cancer. And we are never going to go on record promoting smoking, because we don't. Smoking is a bad actor, but smoking is also the biggest cause of heart disease. It's the biggest cause of vascular disease. It's a cause of all cancers, not just lung cancer. It's listed as a cause of all cancers. And we have to get the world thinking like this so we can get the funding to change this disease. This is the biggest cancer of all time. And we need to work on changing the way people see it, period, to get all of these wonderful things out there and happening. Because research costs a lot of money. Just the study we're funding here, and what Alchemy, we also have to pay the Alchemy investigators to actually do the study, do the clinical trial. It's a lot of money. It's not free. None of it is free. For breast cancer, every $18 that goes to breast cancer, $1 goes to lung. Breast cancer, early detection, 98% survival rate. Early stage. stage 4. Now they're doing a great job managing it. We need to be there, but we need to get from $1 to $18, you know, in really quick order. So you guys chat first, and then we'll get into some of these issues and get them on TV.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2010, and at first I thought I was going to be able to have an operation, but it had metastasized to my spine, and so I immediately went on chemotherapy, intravenous. I had carboplatin, Alimta, and Avastin, and they actually did do a biopsy on my tumor, so I knew from the very beginning that I had the EGFR gene mutation. So, but at that time, I guess it was controversial whether you started out with Tarceva or the chemotherapy, so my doctor gave me chemotherapy. And it really killed the cancer, and I'll have to say that my spine has not lit up since then. But it also damaged my kidneys, and I got really sick a year and a half ago and made it through. But it's, I guess I wanted to, well, first, I did have the symptom of coughing, and my mother died of lung cancer at 63, and my sister just passed away from lung cancer. And I had told my doctor through the years about our family situation. And so when I was about 62, I was really coughing a lot. And that was, you know, almost 6 years ago. And I kept saying, you know, I'm worried. So she gave me x-rays and then said I had acid reflux. And then when I finally did get diagnosed, I had pneumonia. And after the pneumonia went away, I was still coughing so much, and I said to her, I go, you know, I'm still coughing my head off. So I had another x-ray, and that's when the cancer showed up. They saw the tumor. And I do feel like I got really good care from the beginning, but my doctor was not a real positive doctor, so I switched and went to Stanford and got Dr. Wakely, who's been great. And but meanwhile, I did have radiation after that illness in November of 2011. I had target radiation, and for about 10 months I had no treatment, and I felt fabulous. And then a new little tumor started growing next to the main tumor, and I've been on Tarceva since October 14th, and I'm stable. And you know, my life is really pretty normal. I mean, I exercise almost every day and babysit, and, you know, I have a great life. But you just never know what the next CAT scan's gonna say, or, you know, so you do live with that. And I think this group is fantastic. I've learned so much here, and all of you do inspire me. Neil, I really look to you for inspiration. And I'm just very grateful to the Bonnie Addario Foundation, what they're providing for all of us. And I'm very grateful. And my husband, he's been fabulous throughout this, and he's my great support.
May I just say a few words? Is this thing on?
Yeah.
I'll say a few words. I mean, one of the things I've just sort of evolved is, you know, how do you live with cancer? I mean, and I can still remember that fateful day in October 2010 when all of a sudden this, you know, gut punch comes out of the blue that, you know, suddenly you have to face mortality with your lifelong mate. And I mean, the hardest part for me has just been evolved to how do you live with cancer? And I think I'm getting close to the point where is just enjoy every single day, you know.
Yep.
You know, I mean, do everything you can to fight this son of a gun and try to keep up with it and get the right doctors and get the right diagnosis and challenge them and all that. But the other part of it is just when you got 3-month break like we just had with Mary before we have another scan, I mean, just, you know, like put it out of my mind and we just start enjoying ourselves. And,
look at Patrick going to Hawaii. You know, bravo. You know, that's the way you do it. If you look at just what happened yesterday in Boston, you know, none of us have any control over how we're going to die, but we can control how we're going to live, with cancer or without it. You know, and if everybody lived the way you just said we should be living, what a wonderful world this would be.
Yeah.
You know, every day is a gift, really is.
Don't project. Just
take
what
just
we have right now. And
wake up, enjoy that day. You know, you don't know what's in store for you. You just don't.
Yeah.
And fight like hell. You know, don't give up. Fight it.
Okay. That's all I have to say.
And you never talk, so yay, that's great.
Oh, I can talk.
Christy, do you have? Oh, you did. Okay.
Yes, I'm Christy, and I'm here with part of my support team, daughter Jay and husband Bill, who've been with me all the way, and I'll let them speak if they wish to later. But I was diagnosed in late 2009, and again, like so many people, one of these persistent coughs, and I'm not a hypochondriac, so I had saved up several odd symptoms I had. I had a swollen lymph gland and persistent cough, and I, you know, let it go from August till November before checking in with the doctor. But thank God I had a primary care physician, and I was saying, you know, it's postnasal drip, it's allergies, it's whatever, and he too said it's probably nothing, but let's get an X-ray. And so there was no fussing around. Right away after the X-ray, he said, it's not a normal X-ray, and we need to do a CT scan. And, you know, he tried not to alarm me, but he went through a checklist of things it could be, and cancer was one of them. And so, the diagnostic period is the absolute worst and I think anybody who's been through this, because you don't know what's coming, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're, you know, trying to put their arms around exactly what it is. And mine was a adenocarcinoma, non-small cell lung cancer, and it was it had spread to both lungs. And then when they did the PET scan, it was all in my bones, knees, hips, spine, shoulders. So it was, you know, it had gone everywhere in the bones. So we went right ahead, and I remember being so relieved finally in January when finally we were into treatment. And where some people dread chemotherapy, I was so ready, because I was ready to fight it and fight back. And I got hit with the you know, the big four: carboplatin, Taxol, Avastin, and then pamidronate for the bones to get calcium to keep the bones dense and tough to fight off the cancer. And I remember going through the first 6 sessions, and then I was getting pretty beat up by number 5, and by number 6 I was pretty worn out. And I went through the PET scan, and things had reduced. And I remember my doctor saying that I was stable. And I said, well, what do you mean stable? Why isn't it gone? I want it gone. And so part of my journey has been learning to live with cancer, realizing that it's not going to be gone, and stable is the word I want to hear. And so I've been through a series, and it's always hard when whatever you're on stops working. But I am grateful that there has always been something next that has worked, and that has extended me for this long. You know, I'm into my 4th year, and I feel very grateful for that. But I also I was on a maintenance of Avastin and pamidronate until that didn't work. And then we tried Tarceva. And it turned out it worked for a while, but I am not EGFR positive. So probably a wild type or one of the folks for which Tarceva can work. So it worked for a period of time, except I'm one of those odd people that tolerates chemotherapy almost better than at least this targeted drug. Tarceva, I had terrible rashes that couldn't be controlled by the drugs they give you to deal with the rash. And I was at 150 milligrams and was so sick, and then went to 100, and then finally had to come off it. But it also had gotten to a point where it stopped working. So I didn't have a good experience with Tarceva. But then after that, we went to Taxotere, and that worked for a period of time. And now I'm on gemcitabine, or Gemzar is the other word. And I'm feeling great. And I had a PET scan yesterday. This will be the first one since I've been on gemcitabine. So I'll find out tomorrow. I have an appointment with my doctor whether or not gemcitabine is working. But I'm hoping that it's doing on the inside how I'm feeling on the outside. I mean, I have good energy. I take a nap in the afternoon, but other than that, I'm exercising every day. I'm living my life. We're planning our 25th wedding anniversary extravaganza in May.
That's just around the corner.
It is.
What are you going to do?
Well, we're going to do San Francisco.
Okay.
People come from all over the world.
Okay.
So we weren't up for anything any more substantial than that, but we're going to give San Francisco a run for its money.
Well, you know, I'm a native. I was born there and raised there, so maybe I could send you to a couple of my haunts that that not a whole lot of people know about.
Okay.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
But I envy the trip to Hawaii. That's
I
wasn't quite getting there. But for me, really, one of the biggest thing has been learning to live with cancer, and I'm almost to the point of thinking of it as a chronic disease, that you can live a decent life with, and it's, and you can manage it, like heart disease or diabetes or even like the AIDS can be managed now. So it is what keeps me up at night, and when we can talk about this later. It's just, what if we start running out of options? I know there's a few more options for me in the pipeline, but I also know that, as you said, Bonnie, that there are treatments available now that weren't available when I was diagnosed.
Right.
And one of the things that we're waiting to see, and this is something I discussed with Danielle, is that when I had to come off Taxotere and go on gemcitabine, what had flared up again was in the lining of the lung, the pleura, and there was some pleural effusion. So hopefully this PET scan will show that those hot spots are now cold, and the fluid has gone away. But I had to make a decision about whether or not to get another biopsy, and there are two places on each lung, and apparently one is too close to the heart, and the specialist that looked at it felt it was too risky. But the other one, he would have taken a run at it, but now it may be shrunk so much that it'll be too small to do a biopsy, and that's part of what I know you've been encouraging, is that lung cancer can change.
Exactly.
And what my diagnosis was back in November of 2009, it could be a different lung cancer now. And so I was anxious to get treatment on, so we'll have to wait and see. But one of those decisions coming out of my results that I'll get tomorrow will be whether or not we do another biopsy. So I'm sort of hoping that they're gone, but if not, we'll see about going in and seeing if my cancer has changed. But all of this I would know nothing about if I hadn't come and learned about the Bonnie Addario Lung Cancer Foundation and attended programs. And at various junctures, when I get to crossroads, I pick up the phone and call Danielle, and we chat. And one of the things that this organization has helped me is develop things to talk to my doctor about. And I've been pleased with my care, but I have gotten several second opinions along the way. Second, I guess they're third opinions and fourth opinions. Dr. Dormady helped me at a very crucial time. Dr. Gandera, I was being considered for a clinical trial for a while, but my kidneys also were not behaving, and so I couldn't participate at the time. But I did get some good advice from Dr. Gandera, and then there was another doctor that I saw. But I developed my list of questions and my things to push my doctor on from coming to these meetings and from talking to Danielle. So thank you. Again, it's with gratitude that we're a part of these meetings.
Thanks,
but Bill or Jay? Okay.
Well,
I have one more thing to say.
Okay. Last word. I knew that was coming.
You sound like my husband.
What has happened since this cancer has started in my wife is, I have to say in a few words that I never have seen so much courage from her, so much strength, and from all of you in this room who have this disease. Every time I go to a meeting or a support group, I'm amazed. You people have so much courage. You're so strong. And I look at my little problems that I think I have, and I remember listening to what you folks have gone through and are going through. And it gives me the strength and the hope and the prayers to our Lord and the thanks to our Lord that are people like you and who make people like me stronger. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just
what a sweetheart are you? You're making me cry.
I just want to pass along one piece of information. I don't know if any of you saw the Time magazine, the April 1st Time magazine. That was hopefully it was out on the newsstands. But the lead article is How to Cure Cancer, and it's a really meaty article about not just lung cancer, but about another organization, the Stand Up to Cancer. We've seen that advertised, and apparently this is a lot of the money and the founders are coming from Hollywood and people in the entertainment industry who've had cancer, who are pushing forward again. And the idea is, and it's not unlike, I think, what we're trying to do with lung cancer, is get all these disparate units that are working on lung cancer together to talk to each other. And that's what this article is about, is not only lung cancer, but rather than the silos of working on breast cancer and lung cancer and colon cancer and uterine cancer, whatever, is to get those teams, the best and the brightest, to start talking to each other and finding the common threads of all the cancers where some advancement in one approach to cancer can help out in another area. And there were several references to lung cancer and how complicated lung cancer is.
And lung cancer is a very complicated disease, much more complicated than a lot of the other cancers. And our second foundation, Alchemy, the Addario Lung Cancer Consortium, we have that dream team. We have Vanderbilt and UCSF and this amazing group. And Italy and France and Spain. We've gone outside the United States, and it's contractual. They have to agree to collaborate and not be working in a silo. So if they have a discovery, they have to share the discovery with everyone else so we can get there faster, so we can fail faster and succeed faster. And this Inherit study we're doing includes all of those people, and they'll be working together, sharing what's working, sharing their discoveries on a day-to-day basis. And I can honestly tell you that it's my belief in the next decade that people with cancer, and I don't care what kind of cancer it is, will be treated not based on what organ their cancer is in, but what their molecular profile is and what their genomics are. You know, right now we've just discovered recently the BRAF gene is very involved in lung cancer. We didn't even know that 12 months ago. So what they're going to do is they're going to take drugs from another disease, because you have this targeted molecular marker in your body. It's starting to show up. Well, you know, this shows up in lung cancer, but it's really successful in colon cancer. So that becomes part of your cocktail and part of your treatment program. Right drug to the right patient at the right time.
Well, one of the great things about what she's talking about right now, and we can talk about this a little bit later, but is next month's meeting, and the speaker that's coming is talking exactly about that, next generation sequencing and taking a deep dive into the genetic makeup of your cancer that goes above and beyond what might be known to lung cancer, but just cancer in general, and seeing what kind of cocktails might be able to be brought together.
And I really encourage you to come to this meeting, because this gets into what we just it's the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. And this is moving so fast today. You know, there's several companies out there doing deep gene sequencing, and we're partnering with all of them in one form or another. It's the answer for tomorrow, and it's moving quickly, really moving quickly. So it's hope. There's so much hope now. When I was diagnosed, it was very dire, and there was no hope. Carboplatin, Taxol, if that doesn't work, you know, we got nothing else. That's it, done. There was no Tarceva. There was, you know, nothing. So today, I mean, and it's happening fast, really good. And our goal is to be a vehicle to get that information to you, because I think we're getting it faster. I know we're getting it faster than some of the doctors are getting it. Because the docs in community hospitals, you know, can't always attend all of these meetings where these things are happening, and the sharing and that's why we're live streaming. You know, the whole purpose is to get the information out there to the patients faster. We had 5 countries dial in last month to this support group. That's our goal. I want to be out of business in 5 years, where you don't even need to come here, and I can go retire and sit on a beach with Patrick
in Hawaii.
Hawaii. You know, the best thing that could happen to us is to be out of business. So stay hopeful and stay positive. Huge, huge, huge. Go to Hawaii. Go to San Francisco. You know, just have the best time. Focus on celebrating that wonderful milestone. I mean, married to anybody for 25 years is worth celebrating, right? Have the best time. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jay. I'm the daughter. I sit and when I remember when they called me in Boston and told me about her with her cancer, and it affected all of us. She has raised my kids, my boys, my 3 boys, and every summer they'd come, and they'd love it in the summer, and they'd come back for school. The day before school started, they'd send them back instead of in the month before or whatever. There was always a reason to keep them longer. And they'd come back, and they'd look forward to it. And my youngest one wasn't the one that came all the time, you know, but we're here now, and he moved, he's in UCLA, and he was telling me that he just got into a research program. And when he was in high school, he did his final on lung cancer because of his grandma. And he found out about the ribbon. He made all his friends wear the clear ribbon, and I never knew about that. And he called me, he said, I need a clear ribbon. You go to Joann's, you go there all the time, get me a clear ribbon. So I got clear ribbons. He said, I need 5 or 6 spools. And I remember that. And all the kids was wearing it. I said, why do they have that on? He said, that's for my grandma. That's for my grandma's lung cancer. And And he just told me the other day, he's at UCLA now, and that's my, I moved out here to help, take care of my parents because they took care of my kids, my boys all the time. And he told me yesterday, he said, I got into a research program. I'm hoping he's one of those that help.
There you go.
Sooner or later, he said, I got in a research program because of Nana, and it made me want to do this program. He said, it's kind of hard, but I think I can do it. And I said, okay.
That's great.
So maybe that's one hope we have for the future with him.
That's awesome. And, I'd like to say something about that clear ribbon. Early on, when I found out that that was the color for lung cancer, I was really offended because they chose a clear ribbon because they called it the invisible cancer. So I totally refused to celebrate that color. But now I've changed my mind, and I'm calling it diamonds. This clear color doesn't mean invisible. It means it's the rarest stone out there. Yes, exactly. We're shining a light on this disease, so I'm okay with it now. Just.
So everybody can get on with using clear because
we're going to use the clear and we're fine with it. So,
the Duran snuck in late, so I don't know if you guys don't want to talk. Nita.
Yes, we're home. So late. But we were fortunate. We had CAT scan and blood draws and so on last week, and it had been 4 months since I'd been in, and everything is, quote, stable. So Jim is pushing me to go to Africa now.
Then go.
Lovely.
Go. I took 2 of my grandkids last year. Amazing. Go. Terry, you have to talk because you know a lot about all of this, cancer changing and biomarkers, and it always is better when it comes from a patient's mother. Will you chat about that just a little bit?
Well, just to give you an update, my daughter Natalie was diagnosed over 3 years ago on March 18th, 2010. She was 32 at the time. She has 2 little girls and a stepson. And they thought she had allergies and whatever. And she started going to the doctors in September, and it took till March to diagnose her. But I have to say, I agree. I'm so proud of her. She's been very strong, and through all of this, it's been quite a journey for her, but now she started with the chemotherapy on the 3, carboplatin, Alimta, and Avastin. She was on that for 6 times. We thought we were going to try to get a EPP surgery because it was in the left lung and the pleural. And so we were going to go back to Boston. And when she went back to Boston, she got her lymph nodes tested because that was one of the prerequisites. And nobody thought that they had gone to the cancer had spread to the lymph nodes. But when she was tested, it was in her lymph nodes. So that canceled the surgery, which in hindsight, I think it was a blessing. It was interesting. Right before she went out there, I had Chinese food, and I opened a fortune cookie and received a little message there that I was soon going to witness a miracle. And I have it taped on my dashboard. And, I thought it was going to be the fact that the surgery was going to go well, but in hindsight, I really do believe that in her case, not in everybody's case, but in her case, I don't think her immune system could have handled the surgery at that time. Since then, she's gone through, she's basically still considered on first-line treatment. She's actually on a chemo break right now, but she was on Avastin Alimta for about a year. Then she went, or a year and a half, and then she went to just Alimta, and she's been stable. There's never been any growth. There was one stubborn spot in her left lung, which we decided to go in and have biopsied through the non-invasive Dr. Krishna's treatment, and it came out negative. But her goal was to eventually stop chemo because she's only 32 years old and she has a long life and she wants to see her girls grow up. And so she went in and had her spot radiated back in November on her birthday. She had 4 sessions of the targeted radiation. And she had a PET scan done in February, and it came out, everything was clear. The one area was inflamed, but that was expected because of the radiation. So as of that day, she has been off of chemo, and she's doing well, and she goes back to Dr. Wakely on the 25th, and then she'll have a PET scan at the end of May. But in addition to the Western medicine that she's been getting at Stanford, she's also been heavily involved with the complementary treatment of acupuncture and acupressure and organ massage. She goes 3 times a week to San Francisco. And we really believe that Eastern medicine, paying attention to her immune system, her immune system now is probably functioning at the level where it should have been. She's always had a weak immune system. So at this point, that was one of the reasons why we went off of chemo, is to see what is, if her immune system has got to the point whether it can handle the cancer that still remains in her body. Even though I think we got the main spot, as everybody knows, or at least we've been told, that unless you cut it out, cancer still remains in your body, and just it stays dormant. So that's where we're at now, and we'll see. But she's been feeling good and dealing with raising 2 little girls and enjoying life. But I have to say, she has grown tremendously through this journey, and have affected. But she's also had a huge support group, friends and family. But also, I want to thank the Addario Lung Cancer. We have used them, and they have facilitated a lot of visits. We've seen lots of doctors, and every support group gives me one more thing to research. So I go home and do my little research after every time they have a speaker or new information. And I definitely think it's part of the reason why Natalie's still here is you have to take it on, and it's your thing you just can't depend on the doctors. They're very busy and whatever, but you just have to keep pushing. And let me tell you, Dr. Wakely expects us to come in every meeting and hammer her with questions. And she answers them as she can. If not, she goes back and researches it. So I think she's used to it. At first, I think she didn't like it, but now I think she expects it.
She's getting used to it.
Yeah. So.
And Terry approached a good subject, and it kind of came up in almost what everybody said. Your immune system. When we were all little, most of us, with a few exceptions to the really young people like Penelope, when we were small, our doctors used to tell us, our mothers, don't give them too much penicillin because they'll build up an immunity to it and it won't work anymore. Well, for all of these years, medicine really felt that it wouldn't work anymore, and so we had to really pull back. But what we know now, and even with chemotherapy, just 5 years ago, they'd say, well, you've had carboplatin Taxol, you can't ever have that again. Or you've had Tarceva, and you can't ever have that again, because your body builds up an immunity. Well, what we know is, yes, the body builds up an immunity, but when you're off the drug for a period of time, the body forgets it ever took it, and you can take it again. So this is a huge key to chronically managed, cancer.
I think that the immune system and immunotherapy, which I had a short conversation with Patrick about earlier this week or late last week, there's what you're saying is true, and it kind of is twofold, right? So what you're talking about, where your body builds up an immunity, right, and that no longer wants to, the drug will no longer work, and then that can come back in some people. They don't know why for some people that does, and why for some people that doesn't. And yet another area that needs to be researched. But I had a great call this week with a pharma company who's doing some pretty big research in immunotherapy and what that looks like for patients, and not just non-small cell adeno, which is where like a big chunk of the research, the limited research that there is being done out there is being done, but in squamous cell patients and in small cell patients as well. So they're showing some real promise in, you know, kind of what they're saying is we all have the potential to have cancer, right? All of us, every last one of us. What keeps one from not getting the cancer and the other from getting it? Is it the immune system? Is it your, like you were saying, Terry, Natalie, having sort of this suppressed immune system since she was a small kid? Was it something that could we have known if you'd have built that up when she was this age? Would she have ever gotten the cancer? Who knows, right? So it's definitely something that's coming down the pipeline and that people are really taking a big look at.
Yeah. And to Terry's point, Natalie is doing things that build your immune system. And, you know, vitamin D is one of them. But I highly encourage you looking into that. You know, educated and empowered patients live longer. They just do. I have to tell you a short, cute story. One of these companies that we're partnering with had sent an email a couple weeks ago saying, Bonnie, you know, we're participating in a summit in San Francisco in May, and we have an extra ticket. Would you like to have it? And I looked up immediately the summit that was taking place in San Francisco, and I looked at the agenda, and they had several different panels, a panel on this and a panel on that, and some pretty high-powered people there and what have you. So I was getting very excited. And then at the very end, they had a panel, and it was titled, The Empowered Patient, A New Paradigm. So I thought, well, that's what we talk about all the time, right? So I looked at it, and so I emailed them back, and I said, I'll take the ticket, but here's what else I'd like. I see that there's a panel up there about the empowered patient, a new paradigm, but I don't see a patient on it. I think there should be a patient on that panel.
Oh, and I think it should be me.
and of course I think it should be me. So he said, well, Bonnie, that's very interesting. Let me look into that. 2 days later, I was on the panel. They all thought it was a good idea. And guess what? They just weren't thinking. They were going to have a panel and discuss what the heck are we going to do with these smart patients? What are we going to do with them? Mm-hmm. They're getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and in some instances, they're smarter than the doctor. Mm-hmm. How are we going to handle them? It's like, well, why don't you ask a patient? Yeah. Maybe we can help you out with that, because we're not going to stop educating patients. They are going to get smarter and smarter and smarter, and they are going to give you a run for your money. They're going to make you earn your money. They're going to make you earn your title, all your MD, PhDs,
Yes.
Go.
And
sorry, I get it.
I actually do want to come back. Patient. I do want to come back to this topic, and we have it sort of on the agenda for the latter part of the meeting, and talking about one of my mom's favorite new quotes, and using it frequently, and now I'm using it, and everybody we know is using it, but it's about patience powering progress. So I do want to get back to that. But before we get back to that, what I want to do is get back to a couple of people who had a couple of things to say, so we can kind of comment on that, and then we'll branch into research. And did you say I was the boss?
I did. You know, but that's okay.
Love that. You guys heard it. And did you hear it, Jenny? Yes, and it's on film, so we might use that in our next video. I'm not sure. So one of the things, and these are just comments I wanted to make on about some of the things that people said. And Neil, when you talked about using "emben" as a verb, I really hope, I don't know if she's on right now. I can't wait for her to hear that, because
she could be flying back as we speak. She's coming home this week.
Yeah, using "emben" like, oh, I need to "emben" my way through this. It's so insanely appropriate for a ton of reasons, and not just for cancer patients, but for someone when you need that like little extra inch, like that little extra motivation, like I just need to "emben" my way through it. And she tells the story about being, sick as a dog after this treatment or that treatment, and right after her pretty major surgery, and where Miles would say to her, what's not stronger than you? And her response always was, cancer's not stronger than me. Like, this is it. And that was her mentality. And we talk all the time about, keeping your head in the game is more than half the battle. So I love and then as a verb. And if she hasn't seen it tonight, I can't wait for her to watch it.
Oh, she'll embrace that. She'll be all over it in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And it will be on her next blog, so keep watching.
Yeah, I am a verb.
Yeah, I love it. This is going to get back to the patient thing. Another thing about what Mary was saying about the misdiagnosis, and I know most of you in the room can talk about that being the case, right? And most of people online and the people that are typically in the room that aren't tonight, my mom being misdiagnosed with acid reflux, with, oh, it's pneumonia, or, oh, it's allergies, or it's this, that, or the other. And I think it's one of those things that is so important to us is that the word gets out there, that the education that's out there, because this is where one of the things that's going to drive from the patients. It's like, no, this is not acid reflux. This is not allergies. This is not whatever. You know yourselves, you know your bodies. And I encourage patients, whether they've been prior to diagnosis or post-diagnosis, if you're sensing something's wrong and something's not right, don't take necessarily what they say for the golden rule. If you know wholeheartedly that it's not A, B, C, or D, push to make them look further.
Let's look further. And pretend your doctor is your accountant. If your accountant was telling you you owe $10,000 in taxes, you'd go, what?
Yeah.
Look again. Look again, because that can't be true. Mm-hmm. You have to do that with your doctor. We have way too much faith in what they say the first time out the chute. Tell them to look again, tell them to look again, tell them to look again. Keep looking till what you hear is what you want to hear.
Yeah. I want to touch a little bit on scanxiety because I know Mary brought it up, and I know that you still, you've been many years, and there's still that anxious moment, right? Because you live scan to scan, and once you get past a certain point, it's not every 3 months anymore. It's once a year, and then you think, whew, once a year. But guess what? Once a year, you're getting ready to go in, and it's time to panic and be worried and be concerned. So I thought maybe you could say a little bit about scanxiety and its normalcy and
well,
how to
it's
deal with it.
It's a normal feeling. We all have it. I think people with cancer have it a little bit more than just tracking something minor. I never like to use the word cure because I think I'm over-promising. I'm never gonna say, we're gonna find a cure. I don't think cancer can be cured. I think it can be chronically managed. I really believe that, like AIDS. And if a cure down the road, happens, hallelujah. But I think we have to think positively about it. We have to use common sense and run with that ball. And, scanxiety is a real thing. You start getting anxious a few days before you take the scan, and then what you'd really like to do is hear same day, right? You don't want to wait till tomorrow. And you can demand that. You can actually say, well, I'd really like to know tonight. And they would probably let you know because they can.
I'll just disclose. My doctor's on maternity leave, and so my case is being transferred, and so I'm giving them a break. But normally, my existing doctor, I had last time I had a PET scan at 2, and she called me at 4.
See, so it's possible. It can happen. So, if you're having to wait days and days and days, don't.
Margaret, one thing is you can get your own scan. In fact, that helped out with my doctor because since the chemo wasn't working, I got my PET scan before I saw him, and we actually changed my chemo since it's working. So the next appointment, we started with something new and didn't break stride.
Yeah.
So I get copies of all my PET scans, the written one and on a disc.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you all need to do that. Everybody listening out there and everybody in here, put yourself, when you go get a scan, put your name on the list so you get one delivered to your home as well. And carry them when you travel, when you go to Africa. Who's going to Africa? Go take this stuff with you, because if you cut your finger, ended up in emergency for some unrelated reason, they need to know what's going on with you so they know what not to do. So make sure you do that. Okay, is there anybody here that doesn't have copies of all their scans and all of their reports? You should have a complete file on in your own house. Yes. Make a call. Okay. Make sure you have like at least the last 6 months, the latest.
We have a lot of this online stuff, but I noticed they don't always put the scans available in there.
Right, yeah.
They got like
when
every
you get
other.
the scan, you can put yourself on the list. They'll actually send you the CD.
Okay.
Okay.
So Hope's got some very brilliant advice.
Are you suggesting that we have all the scans that we've ever had?
I would say you should have everything for the last year if you haven't been collecting them, because it's important for a doctor, especially if you're seeing a new doctor, to see how the progression has taken place. You know, if you have a fast-moving cancer, do you have a slow-growing cancer? All these things are important. And if you're in another country and, you know, you've found your way to an emergency room for something totally unrelated, you should always have that information with you. Always.
I don't know if this
or you
is,
change doctors or what have you.
if this is potentially a good time to bring this up or not, but since it's on the forefront of my mind, I'm going to. I think it's also important when you're going for your scans to ask whether or not, if you don't know, you're being scanned in the same machine that scanned you last time. Because sometimes machines are calibrated differently. So sometimes what could look like a potential growth maybe isn't, right? It might just be the way, that's what I mean, by growth. It just maybe the way that machine's calibrated versus the way the other machine was calibrated. So, and I didn't know this until sometime during your treatment, and you were on some trip somewhere. This was several years ago, but I'm in charge of, you know, making sure everything's in line and what's going on with her. And you can ask your physician.
Or when you go get the scan, you check in, you tell them, I want a copy of this scan.
They know what machine, where, all of that. So,
I mean, like you go in for your appointment, and they have the machine all ready for you. So do you call ahead of time and say, I want?
If I may suggest, because I have gone through this from the very first time, is I did my research on what machines they had at Stanford, in this particular case, at the different centers. I decided which ones I wanted to have done, and when I go, even though I tell them ahead of time, when I reconfirm, when I go to check in, I will tell them which machines I want to have the work done. And it's not a problem. Even if they've set it up in another machine, it's a matter of 1 minute or so, taking the ICView from one to another in that part there, for exactly the reason that Danielle has mentioned, that I had read, that there is variance in machines. There is a definite variance in people who read your scans.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's an issue to deal with. And it's very difficult to get the same person to read that. And perhaps sometimes you don't, because you do want a different set of eyes to be looking at your scans and see something that maybe someone else has not seen. Because it really is an art and not a science per se in that
You want to be
reading.
comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. A different machine may need calibration, so it's kind of off a little bit, and it makes your nodule look bigger than it really than the other machine. You know, saw the picture. So
and also when you're having it, if I could just may add, if you're having on the CT, you know, there is a problem of, you know, repeated CTs with the amount of radiation that we are getting. And some of us may be fortunate not having a CT. You may not have it for a year. If you're in a trial, you may have to have it every 6 weeks. So there is, you know, that potential, because we hope that we have a long life, and that can cause some problems. And you do want to keep up with what the current state of the art is in these machines, because there is a concerted effort by the companies, and around here it's mostly GE and Siemens machines that are used to try to reduce the amount of radiation and still get you a good reading. So it's important to look to see what machines are available at the different centers that any of us may go to, and be sure that we're getting the best available care as far as the radiation reduction. at this particular moment. Now, things change as money's become available and better machines are out there, whether it be the CT or if it's an MRI that you're taking, whether it's a 3T machine or something that's even better at the time, so that you're getting the best possible care for yourself. And again, it's what Danielle and Bonnie and others have said, is we do have to be advocates for ourselves. To go there and think that any one of our doctors or technicians have all of the answers, they don't. We have to help them, and if we don't take charge of our own care, we're losing out in the whole process. So I'm glad to see that Bonnie was up in the panel on the paradigm. I would say get rid of all the doctors who are up there, put a number of patients up there, and well, the product that will come out will be even better.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
I have something to add to what Neil's saying. When I went for the scan a week ago, I went to Sherman, and I was sitting waiting to be called in to have the scan, and they were having a big meeting at Sherman, just coincidentally. And one of the people that was at the meeting was the radiology marketing manager for Stanford. And she and I had quite a long chat, and because I've been questioning whether, you know, having the same radiologist read the material is good or bad. You know, like he said, a new pair of eyes is good, but sometimes I wonder if the people even read the previous information, you know, right after I had this tumor radiated. You know, I got back this weird thing, and Wakely and Bill Liu both were in contact with each other on the telephone, because what the radiologist said, you know, the one that was reading my most recent scan, was very strange. It didn't relate to what had happened, because they didn't seem to be aware that I had had this radiation to the tumor. So it was very, so I wondered about asking for the same, and this woman told me how many people there are, and there's a team of each, 2 for each one, and so on. But then I also pointed out to her that I had gone to Blake Wilbur initially when I was first, you know, getting scans, and I found, first of all, I found, to my horror, that the machines were dirty. They, you know, you're lying on your back looking up, and here's all this dirt on the top of the machines, which it just was a real turnoff. And so from there, I went to Sherman, and from then on, but this woman affirmed my consideration in one way, and she said, we always get the machines first when they come to Stanford at Sherman. Now, whether she was just being nice to me or something, or affirming my thought on the machines at Sherman, but that's what it said. Did you find that to be true?
Well, I have. I actually made a shift from Sherman Avenue, which is one of 3 locations that Stanford Hospital and Cancer Centers has different machines. Now, I made a conscious decision just really for expediency to go to their Redwood City facility, and that's where I've been going now, but after doing some research. But I actually went into all 3 of them, talked to the people before the scans. I went in to look at the machines because I went online to see what they had listed, but knowing that, like many other websites, it doesn't always get updated right away. And I don't take anybody's word for it. I went in and I checked out which model the machine was that I was going to use or wanted to use, and then did my research on the company's website, knowing that because GE or Siemens is selling the machine, their information is probably going to be quite correct and quite up to date. And I've also gone to the point of asking why they don't have a certain machine there. That's like one step further on, and it's just a matter of they'll eventually have it, but you can't have a brand new one all the time. And of course, we want the best possible treatment and the best machines we can get and the best, you know, drugs and everything else. And all of us are probably impatient at certain times. And just, although Bonnie has mentioned that, you know, things are moving faster, Well, they can't move fast enough for any of us.
Right.
That's
right.
it.
That's right.
It's I want it in a nanosecond type
Right.
thing. I want my care and Mary's
Right.
care and Nita's care and everything to be as fast as possible. But I understand that it is getting better. But if I could just segue a little bit to one of my pet things for everybody is being part of clinical trials. It doesn't happen. These things don't happen unless we're part of clinical trials. And only approximately 4% of people participate in those trials. And there is an attempt to try to get the amount of time that it takes a drug to start at the beginning and get to market to reduce it either through breakthrough status or combining a phase 1, phase 2, as Dr. Oxnard has mentioned last week and is part of the trial that I happen to be on, to try to reduce the amount of time. If we don't participate in those trials, they're not happening. And that Tarceva or Clovis or any of the others, BB drugs or anything else, is not getting out there. So if the opportunity comes up for any of us to participate in some way, just as the different alchemy, with the 790M that Nancy's working on, with the blood draws to try to get it, we have to participate in it. And it may not help us per se, because it will take 5 or 6 years to get to market probably if we're lucky, but it's going to help somebody else. So it's our responsibility.
And the cocktails are happening faster when they're taking a drug from another disease and mixing it with a drug from this. Those are happening a lot faster. They're not taking 6 years. It used to be that a clinical trial for a drug, the drug didn't get to market for over 12 years and sometimes 25 years. Well, that is unacceptable. So it is.
Well,
it
and
is
I think
happening
this goes back, and it's a perfect sort of segue into patients powering progress, because Neil, listening to what you're saying about your machines, and hey, P.S. I've looked into your machines, and when are you getting this one? Because I might know what this one means, right? And Terry, you talking about going in with a list of questions, for Natalie's doctor and everything that's going on there. And where at first maybe it was a little upsetting to her or time consuming or whatever it was, now she expects it, right? So it's like, oh, the fries are coming in. We need to, block up this.
They know if you're empowered. They're going, oh, geez,
but
Terry Fry's coming.
Very
shit,
small examples of patients powering that progress.
Good.
And imagine a band of patients getting together and what that could look like. And as far as, powering the progress, where it's, instead of it just being these one-offs, but everybody together standing up and saying, we're done with things being done the way they've been being done for 50 years, because it's not working. It's not working. So what can we do as a group, as patients, as family members and loved ones and caregivers and advocates and caregivers and what can we do to make a difference, to power that progress? And I'm here to tell you that every meeting we're in, every conversation we're having with people inside industry and out, they're all about the patients right now. And all of a sudden, it's taken organizations like ours to sort of make this what seems like an instinctive light bulb that would automatically have been going off since inception, right? To all of a sudden turn on, and them kind of going, oh wait, right, you're right, the patients may hold the answers not only in their bodies, but in how we should develop clinical trials, how we should do all of these things, right?
And it's called taking a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity, the amazing opportunity to be out there with some amazing people. And just segueing back to this summit that's happening in San Francisco in a few weeks, they just really weren't thinking. They thought they were all going to sit around with their PhDs and talk about what are we going to do with this empowered patient, these new empowered patients. And so when I said, how can you possibly have a meeting like that without adding a patient to the panel? They thought about it, but I have to say, a positive thing happened. They didn't think about it ad nauseum. They just actually went, well, she's right. She should be on the panel. So it's taking a seat, not asking for a seat, not hoping you get a seat. It's taking a seat. We need to take a seat at the table because guess what? The solution to making lung cancer a chronically managed disease and hopefully someday cured is in our bodies. The biomarkers are in our bodies. They're in our blood, in our tissue, in our plasma, in our cheek swabs, in our saliva. They can't get to the next phase without us. So they need to value us. Not just guinea pigs, not just somebody walking through the door that's going to be in the clinical trial and say, take your clothes off, put on this paper robe. Maybe they should start giving us warm robes and slippers, damn it. You know, value us, make us feel like we're really part of the solution rather than an annoying part of the process, right? Because that's how we feel. They don't make us feel warm and fuzzy. I remember my cousin was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer about 9 months after I was diagnosed with lung cancer. And I went with her to the hospital, and we're there talking to her doctor, and she was just diagnosed that day. And in walks this guy to talk to her about a clinical trial. And he has a briefcase that's about as big as that suitcase, full of legal papers. You know, and I mean, she's just hearing pancreatic cancer, and he's going, and you know, the best possible thing for you is this clinical trial, which is another word she's never heard. And she finally looked at him and said, you really need to just get the you-know-what out of here, because I am just, really what I'm going to do is go have a margarita somewhere and, you know, try to figure out what this means, what this all means. But we need to be valued. We are the solution. If we all said, if the 4% that are now in clinical trials decided, I'm not going, this whole thing stops. It stops on a dime. We are important. And we have to know we're important. And we have to say we're important. And we have to communicate how important we are. And they need to give us a seat at the table so we can be part of the solution. And so we can help each other explain what clinical trials are about. They're not going to ever get it. That suitcase isn't going to get any smaller. So we have to do it. We have to, right here in this room, I have to say, you know what, there's a clinical trial at Dana-Farber that would just be so good for you. You go, let me call and set it up. You're going to go, right? Because you know, we know. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to take this thing from the ground up, and we're going to teach them. We're not going to wait anymore for them to teach us.
And I think it's
over.
But with that being said, I think clinical trials, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Neil that we need more people involved in clinical trials in order to, are you stealing my wine?
Yes.
In order to power this progress in as far as research, right? But one of the things I can understand as a patient, especially as a newly diagnosed patient, or you don't even have to be a newly diagnosed. Clinical trials are insanely difficult to navigate and understand, and trying to choose, right? Because you're gonna have X amount of options. Certain options you'd like to have are gonna be off the table because of inclusion and exclusion criterias, and it's a maze of things to try to comprehend on top of, oh, P.S., you've been diagnosed with this, and now you need this, and now you need that, and scanxiety and everything else, right? So some of the really cool partnerships that we're working on right now that are going to be coming to fruition, one this week and
one's going to be announced 2 days from now, and we're like cannot say anything tonight, but 2 days from now you'll all get an email. And it's really cool.
It's actually a really great, it's going to be amazing for patients, for patient empowerment, for help with just that, with clinical trials and what might work best for you as individuals in your own, like you said, personal journey. What would be a fit and what isn't, and not having to be a scientist to figure it out, you know. So we're really excited about some of the sort of strategic moves we're making to try to help you guys with exactly what we're saying, you know.
Because it all sounds overwhelming, I'm sure, to all of you. It's like, oh my God, yes, Neil. We're not all like Neil. You know, we're not going to do this. I'm not going to go check the numbers on the machine and whatever. You know, I'm gonna, you know, give him some faith. You know, but knowing that we can't all be like Neil, we need Neil in the room. This is a very good thing. But we also need some other resources to go have entities help us
make those decisions.
Collate all of this information that's out there so we can get an answer back for our very own unique cancer. Because we're all unique and we're all different. And some of us have arthritis, and some of us have some other things going on. Some of us might be pregnant and, overly active hormones. But, we're all unique, and our treatment has to be just as unique as we are. So we're partnering with some people that are going to help get you that information without you having to be a PhD or go to school for the next 12 years to figure it all out.
And like I said, and one of the best, sorry, Anita, but just to finish that, one of the best things happening right now is what we know industry's finally acknowledging, and they're finally actually saying, can you help us to get patient input on actual trial design? Like it's never dawned on anybody to ask a patient before they design a clinical trial. Like, what might you like to see happen during all of this? It's never dawned on them, and they're finally starting to stand up and say, oh, yeah. Well, maybe you're right. Now that you're sitting here at the table saying all this, I mean, would it make sense for us to maybe? And we're like, hello.
Right. How many of you have had cancer?
Yeah. Or had to go through a clinical trial?
Nobody.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Nita, sorry.
It's the beginning.
Well, this is not nearly as exciting as what you're projecting, but I was happy to see, because 6 months ago at Stanford they had several programs during the week, 3 different days of the week, on telling you what is a clinical trial, and they brought in people who were involved with clinical trials at Stanford, and they had subsets of that, and all of this on different days of the week. And I thought, this is really good, because a lot of this stuff I don't understand, and so hope to gain better insight through going to these things. But a lot of people don't know anything about them. So I was glad to see they put it on 6 months ago. They're putting it on again.
And I'm thrilled to hear that too. And I would actually not mind coming to listen to what they have to say, because my greatest hope would be that they are actually bringing it to you at a level that makes sense, as opposed to just reading off protocol for the trial, because that's equally as confusing, right?
But Sally.
I have a frustration. When you were talking about the scans, about a year and a half ago with one of my scans, it came back talking about how I'd had a lower right lobe removed, lower right lobe removed, and an upper right resection. I never had an upper right resection. So when I saw my oncologist, I mentioned this to him, and I said, unless they did something I know nothing about, and I have the surgical report. So he checked, and he said, no, you've never had an upper right resection. So this is at UCSF. So he put it all in the computer. This time it came back talking about my lower right lobe being removed and my upper right resection. And I'm furious, because how do I know they're even reading this properly if they haven't got the proper information of what I had done?
Well, the only way you can know that is to look at the scan yourself. See this right here?
I wouldn't know what I'm looking at.
You'll know if it's there or not.
I think this goes back to what, sorry, Hope, I'm going to let you say 1 second, to what you were saying earlier about keeping track of your records, right?
Right.
Why it's so important, because you can bring that binder back to them, and should I keep the last year? Or Mary Jo online, I know you asked, should I keep the last 5 years? And for me, realistically, the answer is yes. And I can tell you that because of the type of family that we are, when my mom was first diagnosed, as scary as it was, and as as optimistic as we were, we kept a book, and we actually called it the tumor book, and we took it to every doctor appointment we went to. And the book is, it's a binder that's this thick. It is full of every scan, every report, notes from doctors' visits, questions to doctors, medications. You name it, it was in there. And I think it's important for just that reason. I'm going to tell a quick story about a new patient that I just talked to today. She's 44 years old, and she was diagnosed after about a year of being misdiagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell adenocarcinoma. She had metastatic disease to her liver, as well as a couple of lymph nodes. Her story is she's been to 2 different doctors. This prior to finding us. We're now sending her someplace where there's somebody that knows what they're talking about. But she had a biopsy done and they only tested her for EGFR and ALK, but that's okay. At least they tested for something, right? So it came back negative, but when she actually herself went back and read the report, the pathologist said, oh, P.S., reran ALK because it was inconclusive the first time. She's positive. So the first doctor only went off the original report, not the PS from the pathologist. Second doctor did the same thing. And she went back to both of them saying, but wait, do you not see this PS down here? And they're like, it doesn't matter. And then they want to put her on quality of life care. Like they want to put her on some low dose chemotherapy so she's not too sick because there's nothing else they can do. And I'm thinking, this happens day in and day out. All around the world, not just in this country, not just in California.
You should see us sometimes
everywhere.
in this office, you know, when this stuff happens. And it's so
crazy.
Wonderful to get a patient to the right place. I mean, there is no better feeling. Mm-hmm. There is no better feeling in the world, getting a patient to the right place and see that they're getting the right treatment. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just nirvana. Go ahead, Hope.
What do you do when you're getting these reports that are wrong? I called the hospital and complained. I told...
Hope wants to say something. Go, Hope,
okay,
go.
I'm sorry, I've just been waiting to say this. Okay, first of all, about getting your medical records, they have to give them to you, and it's not enough just to ask that the report gets sent to you, because half the time it won't actually get sent to you. The trick that I learned is the next day, or when they say that it's supposed to be due, you go down to medical records and you just wait. And you just say, you know what, I can just wait, that's fine, you know, and will it take an hour, and that will work. If they insist that they can't get it to you that day, call your doctor's office and ask to talk to the nurse, and ask the nurse in your doctor's office to call medical records and request that it be given to you, and that speeds it up. You'll get it really quickly that way. But usually just showing up and sort of politely refusing to leave, they'll get it to you really quickly. Yeah. The other thing that happened with my husband when he was about to have surgery to have his tumor removed, they did a quick test with a scope, and they found something on his liver, and they did a biopsy on it, and they said, oh, the cancer's spread, he's metastatic, and sent us home. And we ended up going to MD Anderson in Houston, and their pathologist looked at it, and it was a fat cell. It was not actually cancer, but 2 pathologists signed off on it in a hospital here and would have totally set us down the wrong treatment path because we didn't get that second opinion. Now, we had to go back to that original hospital because he almost passed out, and it was the closest hospital. They had all the new updated information from MD Anderson. They wouldn't change his diagnosis. I wrote a letter to the president of the hospital. I complained. Every single person I talked to, they wouldn't change it. Then I filed a complaint with Joint Commission. And within 4 days, I had a letter from the hospital. And then within 2 weeks, I had his diagnosis changed and his records updated. So in terms of when mistakes like this are made, they will ignore you. And then when you file a complaint with a regulatory agency, all of a sudden, everything changes. You can do it online. It's really easy. Joint Commission accreditation for hospitals, organizations, JACO is what they call it, or Joint Commission, depends on the place, and it's a really effective way when any kind of a mistake is made. They get, and any time that I was having trouble getting someone to do something, one time I was at a hospital, they wouldn't give my husband his TPN. They just said the order didn't get into the pharmacy before 1 o'clock. That meant he would have gone without any nutrition for 24 hours because the order went in at 3 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. He had no way of eating and had no nutrition, but just because of this 1 hour rule, he couldn't have it. And so I just, asked for the charge nurse, I asked for the name, everybody's name, and I said, well, I need this information for my report to Joint Commission so that you all can explain to me why my husband shouldn't go without nutrition for 24 hours. 20 minutes later, they had his TPN. And so, you don't want to just threaten, make empty threats, and you need to mean it. The other thing that's really effective is I said, oh, and I want your name because I'm going on Facebook right now. And I went on the hospital's Facebook page and said, my husband is a patient here, and he's going without nutrition for 24 hours because of hospital policy. And it's surprising, but Twitter and Facebook, because the marketing people are aware of it, they really don't like it when people start tweeting and retweeting bad things about you. And so the marketers actually sometimes are more effective than the medical records people at getting that bureaucratic door open. So like mistakes and things like that, it can be really helpful.
Well, and I think that it's unfortunate that we live in a place where you might even have to do something like that, right? Yeah. But the reality of it is that sometimes you do. So I guess at the end of the day, the most important thing is don't ever, ever, ever for even 1 second be afraid to stand up for yourself or for a loved one when things like this happen. And Sally, kind of based on what Hope just said, you could let it go because you know in your head, right? But the right thing to do so that it doesn't happen the next time is to make sure that it doesn't go without being corrected, right? Of course, Bill, you need to grab your microphone though.
I do the same thing, and I'm telling you, you're right, it works. Not with just cancer. If I go in a restaurant and somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, the first thing I do is reach in my pocket and say, can I get your name? You start writing down names and things change in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Right.
get that name.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's important to them that they don't get called down for something they did wrong.
It's your life, and that's exactly it. This is your life.
It's your life.
I want to just conclude on the testing and the machines. There's a couple of additional important pieces of information. The radiologist report will be interpreted by your oncologist. That's very important. And like Nita's radiologist report said that our nodule, and that's what we're talking about, we're trying to find nodules with the CT equipment. It says it changed by 2 millimeters. And you say, oh my goodness. Well, it turns out that the machine resolves to 2 millimeters. And so 2 millimeters is of no concern whatsoever. It goes to 5 millimeters. Well, that can be a different story.
Right.
But the point is that this equipment and the identity and the serial numbers and all that stuff. What's the total story? And be sure to ask the question of your oncologist. What is the resolution equipment? How much did it change? And then how do you interpret it? And Dr. Wakely, like several people here, is our oncologist. So she interprets what the radiologist said, and she said, "Well, I'm not concerned about that." And then it got out of her that the reasons why. So these are extremely important things because very powerful equipment with only have a certain level of resolution. Maybe next year they can resolve to 1 millimeter or 0.5 millimeter, but right now it's 2 millimeters, and that's the best they can do. So, take for what that's worth.
I can kind of confirm that with Dr. Wakely as well. When we first got this, okay, it's increased slightly. I go, no, how do they know how much it increased? Do they take out a plastic ruler and put it on a photograph and measure it? She goes, well, not exactly, but kind of.
But yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
I said, well, how much? You gotta. We tend to look at a doctor and the scientific results as sort of these absolute precision measurements. Right. 1, 0, everything. Right. It's just not that way.
Right. Exactly.
So I think it's really. I just can confirm what you said, and Dr. Wakely really is very good about kind of interpreting that.
Yeah, absolutely. But the machines, like a cash register, they have to be calibrated on a regular basis. All machinery does in some form or fashion. So, it might be that you just got a machine that was just calibrated. It might be that simple of an answer. But, there's a certain measurement that's okay, that, either or. But if there's something significant, it's just important to go to the same hospital or the same screening place. I go to San Jose. I go to San Jose Imaging for all of my CAT scans. The one time I didn't go, everybody panicked. I was in Denver, and I won't even go into.
I don't even feel like you were in Denver. I feel like
I was
it
in Denver. I was in Denver when I
because I couldn't find you and I couldn't get a hold of you. I had Fred Marcus on the phone. I was a mess.
Anyway, it was completely, but it was the machine. It was the machine, and if I had went back to Denver today and went on that machine, it would probably look exactly the same, and they'd show no difference, right?
Sort of the moral of that story is, had she not had a doctor who picked up on the fact that it was the machine, what might her next day have looked like?
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
it's really, you know.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's a tricky situation. I don't want to have to cut this. Go ahead.
I want to mention one quick thing. On my scans, like my T10, all my tumors aren't listed. I know they said they don't count. I said, it counts to me, you know, if it's in my body and it's still got a tumor on it. The radiation stopped at T10 since last August of last year. And I think my left lung. But they didn't list it, and there was something about my ribs, and I guess they left off the stuff that isn't growing, but I still have tumors. I don't know why they're
So
allowed
this
to
is a
do that.
conversation that I've had with Patrick on a couple of occasions, and where he was being seen prior, they didn't even let you know about some lesions that were an actual problem, right? And I think, again, the best thing to do is, you know, in your head, based on whatever, that these are where they are. You need to go back like Sally does and demand that you get a complete,
say, where are these on here?
Report.
The doctor wouldn't talk to me. It made me so mad. If he would have walked out there, I would have grabbed him and, I mean, you know, because I don't know who she thinks the doctor is. He can't speak to me. I mean, because he's leaving stuff off my scan. I want to know everything. It's my cancer, and it's important.
So I think maybe if Hope, after the meeting, if you could give Patrick some of the information about who he needs to contact and make sure that all happens, that would be awesome. Does that sound good?
Great. You too, Sally. Sally too.
So we're going to need to say...
Terry wants to say something real quick.
Yeah, you can. But I just want to go ahead and say goodbye to our TV viewers, not our online people. Nobody needs to hang up. I want to give a huge shout out to making sure all the appropriate people are thanked, not only everybody in the room, but everybody watching online. Genentech, Safeway Foundation, actually, Patrick, you'll be happy to hear, it just came on this week as a sponsor of the Living Room. So they are sponsoring what we're doing here, and Safeway Foundation. So we're really, really happy to have them come on so that we can make this happen over and over and over and over again. Again, a huge shout out to Penn TV. As all of you know, I've thanked them a million times, but there's never thank enough for what they do and what they provide for us. You guys can all watch this back if you feel like you've missed anything or forgot your notepads on channel 26.
And when Penn TV starts arriving about 4 o'clock with all of this stuff, and you have to look in the back room and see all the rest of the stuff that's there.
Please look at all the equipment.
And they make this happen. We're just constantly amazed. It's like, really, in 2 hours, you're going to have all this up and running, and this is going to be on television, and yes, it is.
But
without skipping a beat.
One of the things, and I'm hoping I don't miss this or that my cameras don't go off before I get a chance to say this on TV. Well, first of all, the handbook. We're passing out the handbooks
tonight. Where are they?
Neil's holding one up. I have one for everyone. And anyone online can email us at handbook@lungcancerfoundation.org to get your own copy. But one thing I want to say, because I think it's really important, and Bill said it earlier about the inspiration he gets from not only his beautiful wife, Christy, but from everyone in the room dealing with lung cancer. Because I think that I know that as a non-patient, but as someone whose journey with cancer started with my own mom, and this is where I always get like insanely emotional, but it started with my own mom, but it has grown to be something so much bigger than that. And I couldn't agree with you more, Bill, that the amount of inspiration that I gain on a daily basis from the courage of you all out there battling this disease and all you caregivers battling it with the people who are fighting it. I don't even have the words to express how how amazing I think all of you are and what I learn from you all every day. I know I've said it before, but I absolutely can't say it enough. So to all of you and everything that you do every day.
And you know, and what Danielle said is what I was saying a little bit ago. If pharma and all the people doing the clinical trials and all the industry out there felt the same way, we would see things change rapidly, just rapidly. The courage is amazing, and we're getting there. They're watching. They're online. They know we're here, and it's going to change. It's going to change in a positive way.
So,
where's all their books?
Oh, Scott is supposed to help pass them.
Do we have boxes here?
We have boxes.
And you know, I have to
Jenny,
tell you,
too.
I am so proud of my daughter. She really put her life on hold for a year. Aside from doing all this and you know, mothering 4 children. She has 4 kids too, by the way. My grandkids. I mean, this was a labor of love. It's been edited by many. This is a book to be believed. Everything and anything that you ever wanted to know about lung cancer is in here. And you only have to go to the chapters that relate to you. You know, if you're stage 1, you only have to go maybe 2 chapters. But all the rest of the information is there. And we'll make sure, we put it in a binder where the pages can be replaced, so we'll be updating it with new biomarkers, and as the lung cancer changes, this book will change. So it will always be something that you can just replace sheets to. It's downloadable. You can get it off the internet and download it. You can read it on the internet. And one day,
if you have questions
we hope to have it on an iPhone application. So,
soon.
Yeah.
And if you know anybody who's interested in donating multiples of $25 to help pay for the book for those who maybe can't afford it.
Right.
So our goal.
So just you can urge them to send the money to.
So thank you, Neil. One of our goals, and we've gotten support, and you guys will see inside the book all the people who have supported us to underwrite this and make sure that it happened and that we could get it printed and my goal is for the end of all time, or for the end till the end of lung cancer, is that every lung cancer patient gets this book for free, so that they don't have to pay for it along top of everything else they have to pay for. But we can't do that without support.
And
so
this was written, we did some research to find out what the average reading grade level was in the United States. What do you think that is? What do you think the average reading level is in the United States? It's 6th grade. So we did this in 10th grade.
Yeah, we did it. We couldn't get some of these big clinical words down to.
But we took out all of the buzzwords that are so hard to understand and put them in plain English. That this is a very readable book. Very readable. We're really proud. Really proud. It took a long time to do it.
So make sure you signed in tonight, because that's going to be part of the list of, as updates happen, you will be on a blast list, so that you know that either something's become irrelevant or something's become really relevant, and we need to be able to track that. So just make sure you signed in tonight. I was going to say something else.
Is the version online searchable?
What do you mean?
Is the version?
Like if you were looking for one, no, it's downloadable. So you'd have to download it and then look through it. But
it's in a PDF form.
It is in PDF form, and hence the hope. We're hoping by the end of this year to have it in app form, which will be searchable.
Are you doing autographed copies tonight?
It was really cute. I was just in Las Vegas, and you know, we have patients all over the United States, and I have this adorable couple down there, Charlene and Jerry. If they're online, I know they log in. They might be watching. I went to visit them, and I stayed there 3 hours, and they're just adorable. And I brought them a book, and Jerry wanted me to sign it. I thought, how cute is that? You know, okay.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what I do want to do? Because I know a few people are online tonight from Dallas. So our Dallas 5K is this weekend, and everybody's been working really hard out there to try to raise money for this event. I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody in Dallas. I sadly will not be there.
I'm going.
But
I'm coming, guys.
you get one better
I'm coming.
because my mom's going to be there
never better.
this time. So I just saw a bunch of them when I was out there in January or February. So I miss you all. I hope to see you soon. But please, please, please come see Bonnie, or Bonnie, Mom, Bonnie, whoever. We have one of this really cool new thing happening throughout our national event series, which is called a VIP tent, and it's a very important patient tent. And it's a place where she or I or my sister will always be housed at every event so that patients kind of know where to come to gather information, any new information we have to give, any new collateral, this, that, and the other. But as well as some of our industry partners will be there so that you can ask them questions too. If something that they're doing pertains to you, maybe you don't know, it's a great place for all of us to kind of be together and work as one solid unit for the patient. So
and hopefully this book takes some of the overwhelming things we've talked about tonight out of being so overwhelming.
Well, and I'll be
That's
interested to see, and I would love your feedback, so please feel free to email me, because a lot of you I've been talking to for at least a year, some of you several years. So I think a lot of what's in here has already kind of been browbeaten into you either through these meetings or as one-offs between my mom and I. But as a new patient, I think it will be equally as, if not more important, to have one place, right? Like, wouldn't we all have loved one place when you were first diagnosed to have just all of the information? So we're really, really excited to get this out. But I would really love your feedback.
Exactly. You know, breeze through it tonight, and we'd like your feedback in the morning.
Yes.
Okay, maybe next week.
We don't
Right,
claim
right.
to have all the answers. We actually
Yeah,
rely
right,
on you.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, hopefully it's very helpful, and that's our goal.
Yep.
And you know, just for you and everybody logged in as well, you know, we're here day and night, 7/24. I know anybody in here that knows if they email us on Saturday or Sunday or at night, we always respond right away. So we're here for you. If there's an emergency or something you need, don't hesitate for a moment. Not for a moment. We care that much. We do.
And then some. Okay. Yes. So the book is free. So Christy gets a book for free.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, what I found out so the book came in on Friday. I have to tell the story because it's kind of cute. The book came in on Friday, and I was like beyond out of my head because finally it was here, and I've been promising it for all this time, and it happened.
There is
and
the book.
So Jen, who's over back here in the corner, monitoring the online peeps, took a photo of me all excited with the insert portion and the binder portion. She put it on Facebook. Well, then all of a sudden, all these people are like, I want a copy. How do I get a copy? How do I get a copy? So I'm not ready because now I need to take the inserts and I need to put it in the binder, and now I need to build the books and I need to mail them. So I'm trying to keep up. I was telling Neil this story today, and I was a little stressed out about what was happening, thinking I don't even know how I'm going to do this. Now I'm trying to figure out how to ship it, right? Well, I go to 3 different places. One, it's between $17. The cheapest I could find it on that quick a notice was $11 and what is it? $11.10 per book just to ship it. That doesn't even include what it cost to print it and put it together, right? So we're working with Neil to try to figure out.
How many do we have to bring to Dallas? I'll bring them in a box.
You're going to bring them in a box?
I'll pack one suitcase. The other one will be free.
We're working on that right now, but it is our it runs about, when you price it out, it ran about $28 a book to put it together, plus that not including shipping. So that's what we're looking for funding for. Yeah, across the board. Yeah. No, I'd be happy to. Just ask me after. I'll give you. So, yeah. So that's it. Yes, Jim.
Another newsy item. It's not too early for people to plan to go to the gala. Announced it is November 9th.
That's right, November 9th.
So and we went to it last year, and it's an extraordinary event. So, save your nickels and dimes, and you will not be disappointed. So it's same location, Fairmont Hotel. And, you haven't lived until you've been to a gala.
Oh, Jim, I just love the plug. And if seriously, if you're going to be around on the 9th, we have people that will buy tables to donate back to patients so that we can assure that patients are able to come.
You'll all get there even if you can't afford it.
Amazing event, November 9th.
I had the husband of one of our patients, and they're probably off now, right? They're dialing in.
I know, I think they're still on.
Okay. They'll know who I am. They'll know who they are. They live by a lake, and they can't come here very often. But her husband came over to me and said, until we met you.
He's filling in for her tonight online, by the way.
My wife was dying, and look at her now tonight. She's dancing. And, I looked over at her, and she was not only dancing, she was having the time of her life.
Well, between her and Jim, we couldn't get him off the dance floor.
Exactly. Happy feet, lots of happy feet. But, hope prevails. Mm-hmm. And, that's where we have to keep our heads. We have to keep our heads in today. Today is a good day. Hope is there. Hope is out there. Let's not let cancer take a day away from us. I look in the mirror every day, and it's not today. I'm not taking it today. Today I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to do that. Cancer-free day. Invest in cancer-free days. Mm-hmm. Tell yourself, not today.
I love that.
No. Yeah. Today. No cancer today. I'm going to go out and just not have cancer. That's my choice. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing. You'd be surprised what happens. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised what happens.
That's a perfect way to end this meeting.
I have one more thing to that.
Oh.
Okay.
This morning, my 4-year-old daughter, her new favorite song is Toes by the Zac Brown Band. And it talks about life is good. So she always wants to hear it in the car. So we get to my sister's today, and she tells my mom and I that every day is a good day.
That's right. That's right. Every day.
4-year-old, that every day was a good day.
Well, we probably should have a couple 4-year-olds in this meeting because, God bless them, they have no clue, right? Every day is a good day for 4-year-olds, right? A lollipop, an ice cream cone, really simple little things make it a really great day. And, maybe I can share with you, I'll share with you one more thing to end the meeting. I was at my nephew's graduation from college in Philadelphia, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And you know how boring those speakers are, the keynote speakers. They're just horrible. It's like, oh my God, maybe I should have just come like 3 hours later. The most amazing speaker got up there. Her speech was over in like about 12 minutes, less than that. I only remember 2 of the things she said that really resonated with me. She said, but here's 2 things I want to leave you with. This is the graduating, the kids. And she left it with me forever, and you're going to know what I'm going to say. So one of them, she said, when you get in an elevator, always, always, always look at everybody with a big smile on your face and say hi, and watch what happens. Sure enough, I go out there and do it. Hi. And sure enough, everybody looks up and goes, hi back, and they smile. They started looking down like this, and so that's amazing to show you just what can happen if you present a really positive attitude. The other thing she told them was, I want you, when you leave here, all of you to go. She goes, I would have brought these, but they would have melted. I want you to all go buy an ice cream cone. But I don't want you to walk around or talk or watch a movie or read a book while you're eating the ice cream cone. I want you just to sit down and just be one with the ice cream cone. And just lick it and enjoy it and look at it and savor it and then remember it. And the lesson learned was, really, it's the moments in our life that make the difference. When our life passes before us, we don't look at money. We don't, dollar signs don't. We're looking at the faces of the people we love and the friends we've made. So those are the moments in our lives. Our lives are about moments. Enjoy them, right? Cancer isn't going to kill us. We don't know what's going to kill us. You could get shot at an ATM machine trying to get $20 out. I'm serious, right? Wouldn't that suck? It's like, shit, what? Really? I'm dead for $20. really seriously. So.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.